Oh. Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayadi taratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vaparerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudya Tetra Kritibihi Shushrushushi Takshana. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. When we were studying in the ashram, we had our Ramayana class in the evenings from 7 to 8, and this was right after Aarti. One evening, there was a talented Bharatanatyam dancer, and she requested permission from Swami Tejomayananda to dance in front of Bhagwan Shiva. So he agreed, and as soon as Aarti was over, a big square was created in the mandir. How many of you have been to our mandir in Mumbai? Quite a few of you, okay. So it's sectioned off with this white string, and people are sitting down to be able to watch her. And one of my batchmates, he's literally pushing people out of the way to be able to sit right in the front. He even pushed me out of the way to sit in the front. And I thought, wow, he's a really avid appreciator of Bharatanatyam. And so he sits down, I sit behind him because I got pushed out of the way. And she begins. And what he does, as soon as she begins, is he looks down at his hands and he's saying it out loud. I can hear him. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And I'm thinking to myself, you think that you're never going to see a Devi, a girl in your life. You think you looking at your hands is going to stop you from thinking about how she looks. And I'll give you another reference point. When we were studying Bhajagovindam, Swami Tejomayananda had shared, if you see someone beautiful, if you see something beautiful, you see it. You can't stop your eyes from not seeing it, correct? But it's when you look again, that's where the appreciation is devolved essentially into lust. All of us are our impressions. When I keep looking at someone who's beautiful and it turns into lust, that's the impression I created. And so I'll keep on having that tendency, that personality. Our course is to create impressions or vasanas for God, for Bhagavan, to keep on hearing, to keep on seeing, to keep on feeling who our Creator is. This is how we'll undo those impressions that make us run away, and we will do impressions that make us face. Skanda 3 was completed with Kapila Upadesha. And Kapila Upadesha began in the 25th Adhyaya. And I'm going to tell you what is the main focus in each Adhyaya. In 25, Devi Devahuti asks Rishi Kapila, how can I be free? And that's for all of us to relate to also. How can we be free once and for all? In chapter 26, Bhagavan Kapila starts offering jnana. And the terminology used is sankhya, which means numbers. It's a system whereby I know that Prakriti and Purusha are different, that matter and spirit are different. In 27, Bhagavan Kapila emphasizes Viveka. He says, now that you know that they're different, naturally, you should hold on to, you should focus on spirit, on Purusha. Your question was, how can one be free? The word Purusha doesn't mean man or human. It means Purnatva, the one who is full, the one who's complete. Naturally, we should seek completion in our life, correct? You don't consciously pay for movies that are going to be incomplete, correct? You don't buy books where there's pages that are incomplete. Even when we eat, even though we're so full, our meal will not be complete until we have dessert, correct? Magically, more space is created. In chapter 28, Bhagavan Kapila teaches his mother about Shuddha, about purity, purity of the mind intellect, of the memory ego, because only when there's purity will one be able to engage in this viveka or prioritization. Can one appreciate the separation between Prakriti and Purusha? In chapter 29, he begins sharing thoughts on bhakti. And we've explored bhakti throughout Ramayana, throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti is shifting your dependency from pleasure, possessions, position, to peace. In chapter 30, Bhagavan Kapila shares with Devi Devahuti, if you don't follow this, and he knows his mother, he knows she's going to follow it, so really who is this message for? Us. If we don't follow this, the whole chapter shares what's going to happen in the short term. Matters like fear will grow, violence will grow. In chapter 31, if you don't follow this, what will happen in the long term? So here's where thoughts about being born again and again and again, being born as a less evolved being. And finally, in Shloka 32, there's a concession that is, not Shloka, sorry, chapter 32. A concession is given. Suppose you're not a person who doesn't follow this, but you follow it slowly. And this is such a fine chapter because all of us, we're not going to follow this, but we may follow this slowly, correct? We may increase our satsang from 0 hours to 1 hour or 1 hour to 2 hours instead of increasing this to 10 hours or 20 hours or whatever it may be. So all of 32 shares what happens when you follow this slowly, and you slowly become happier and happier and happier then. In chapter 33, Devi Devahuti does follow intensely what her son has taught. And so her question in 25, how can I be free? In chapter 33, she experiences that freedom. The word Bhagavata means belonging to. Belonging to Bhagavan. The words belong to Bhagavan. The feeling belongs to Bhagavan. And we have to come to understand and appreciate that we belong to Bhagavan too. For some of us, these words are too poetic. They're too esoteric. Srimad Bhagavata is really Vasudeva. Correct? Vasudeva is another name for Bhagavan Krishna. But Vasudeva has a deeper meaning. Vasudeva, in a very functional sense, means the son of Vasudeva. We know that. Vasudeva, in a deeper sense, Vas means existence. Deva means awareness. When one knows that they belong to, when one knows they are existence awareness or Sat Chit, how will your life be then? Ananda. It will be joyous. We'll be complete. We'll be free. Vasudeva, that is Bhagavan Krishna, he's coming. And we have to prepare ourselves for Vasudeva. How? By meeting his different icons, his expressions. And so far we've met his avatars. Bhagavan Narayana, he's really avatar 0. Then Bhagavan Brahma was 1. The Sanata Kumaras, 2. Bhagavan Varaha, 3. Rishi Narada, 4. And Bhagavan Kapila, 5. These are the formal avatars that we've explored in our course so far. Srimad Bhagavata is being facilitated by one question from Raja Parikshita, which is, what should I do? No different than Prince Arjuna's question is, please guide me definitively, he tells Bhagavan Krishna. With Raja Parikshita, time has become urgent for him. It's not casual. He knows he's going to die. Try to relate to Raja Parikshita as much as possible. Time is urgent for us too. We can see that by how infatuated we are with texting, correct? With texting culture, all is urgent. But more so, he's an examiner. He's an inquirer. He doesn't take any experience for granted. Parikshita. The first skanda of Srimad Bhagavatam, the focus is adhikari. I just shared some details about Raja Parikshita. He has no agenda. He has 1 week and he's dedicating that week to peace. The second skanda, the focus is sadhana. One can't magically become peaceful when one has been living with stress and anxiety and sadness for minutes or months or lifetimes. So there's a sadhana, and the sadhana shared is dhyana, to contemplate on yourself, on the multiverse, on your creator. The third skanda, which we just completed, the focus is sarga, creation. And here I'm going to describe creation in this skanda as regular creation. From stones to humans, skanda 4, which we're about to begin, the focus is visarga. Sarga means regular creation. Visarga means special creation. Now, what is the most special creation amongst creation? And whether you say it or not, every one of you feels yourself, correct? You are God's gift to the people around you. And in an arrogant sense, you're wrong, but in a factual sense, you're right. Humans are God's greatest gift. Humans, I didn't say you specifically. I said all of us are God's greatest gifts. So Skanda 4 focuses more on not stones or plants or animals, but humans. Humans, unlike stones and plants and animals, are known as yoga yonis. We are embodiments that it can engage in yoga. I rejoined a gym this week, and after I do some strength resistance, then I use the elliptical for some time, and I try not to look at the screens, but there's so many. They inundate you with colors and sounds, and they keep listing the classes that they teach. So at the gym I go to, they have a class on yoga. So everyone sits around and discusses Srimad Bhagavatam in this class. And the class after that's called RPM. Yoga is not a posture. Yoga is to unite. And the key point here is we're very optimistic people. We always think of uniting in a noble and upwards way, but you can also unite in an ignoble and downwards way, correct? You can evolve or devolve. Stones and plants and animals, they can only evolve. But we can evolve, we can also devolve. And our evolution and devolution is facilitated by Purusha Artha. Put them together, it is Purusharthas. Show me with your hands how many Purusharthas there are. How many Purusharthas? You're all scared to answer my questions because you know that I'm not asking for something straightforward and technical. There's one. The only Purushartha is moksha. Purusha means human. Artha means meaning. What will bring meaning to a human? It is only freedom. Dharma, Artha, and Kama. Those three arthas or meanings only have real meaning if they're helping us reach moksha. And if they're not, they are meaningless. Skanda 4 flows by giving us examples of people who do and do not follow Dharma, Artha, Kama. For Dharma, it is Daksha Prajapati. For Artha, it will be that divine boy, Dhruva. And I'll share more with you. Today, we're simply going to focus on Dharma. Okay? Some high-level thoughts, and then we'll study a shloka. Dharma, in a literal sense, means duty. If you read any of our scriptures, it says duty. I use the word responsibility. I find duty to be too army-oriented, and responsibility, I can relate to that better. Now, Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma, and I know you all remember this, tell me what Sanatana Dharma is as a noun. You can share it with the people sitting around you. What does Sanatana Dharma mean as a noun? Infinite nature. Here the word dharma means nature. What is the nature of life? It is infinite. What is the nature of this bulb up here? To give off light. It also gives off heat indirectly. So Sanatana Dharma means infinite nature. That's a meaning of dharma. In a more relative sense, in a verb sense, what does Sanatana Dharma mean? Unchanging responsibility. It is our unchanging responsibility to know, to be our infinite nature. So dharma means nature, dharma means responsibility. As we explore Daksha Prajapati, the end message, our dharma through Srimad Bhagavatam is to become a servant of God, to become Bhagwan's dasa, dasi, That's what our dharma is. And I'll give you two supports to this. Remember that dialogue that Rishi Narada had with Bhagavan Brahma? Rishi Narada is the son of Bhagavan Brahma, and he's watching Bhagavan Brahma work so hard, cheerfully. And he asks, how are you doing this? Because everywhere else, people are hardly working and they're doing so miserably. So how are you so dynamic? And Bhagavan Brahma, before he answers the question, he thanks his son, saying, you've given me an opportunity to remember him more deeply. And once, Swami Chinmaya had told Swami Tejomayananda, when you go and speak, when you go and teach, don't feel like people are obliging you. In fact, I think I said it wrongly. Don't feel that you're doing people a favor. They're doing you a favor because they're listening or pretending to listen. That's what's good about virtual classes. I can't really see you so closely that you could be contemplating, you could be sleeping, you could be miserable, but I'll think that you're smiling. The people listening are really giving the people who are speaking that opportunity to remember Bhagavan more deeply. Today's Thanksgiving in Canada. There's nobody here at Chinmaya Dhara. And I take time now to offer my gratitude to all of you, my thanks I'm giving to you. If you weren't interested in a formal way, informal way, serious way, casual way, I would not be studying Bhagavatam as in such a detailed way. Raja Manu had 3 daughters. We met one of them already. What was her name? Devi Devahuti. Another daughter is Akuti. Akuti. And the third is Prasuti. Prasuti. And Prasuti is married to Daksha Prajapati. And from Ramayana, we already know what was Daksha Prajapati and Devi Prasuti's daughter's name? Devi Sati. So now we have to revisit all relating to Devi Sati, but with a different focus now, okay? I am on the 4th skanda, the 2nd adhyaya, the 23rd shloka, 4:2:23. Buddhya para bhidyan yin. Buddhya para bhidya yin. Ya vismritat magati pashuhu. Stri kama sostvati taram. Daksho basta mukho chirat. This is a shop. This is a curse that Nandishvara shares on or puts on Daksha Prajapati and says, you have forgotten who you are and what you're supposed to do. You're acting like a pashu, like an animal. All you think about is stri. You're a lusty person. All you think about is yourself. And so, may your head be like a goat. And it doesn't share here, but in another commentary, Daksha Prajapati keeps going, meh, meh, meh. What does meh, meh, meh mean in Hindi? It means me, me, me. That's what a goat does too. So you keep saying meh, 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 but you don't look like a goat. May you look like a goat also. So lots to share about what has led up to this curse on Daksha Prajapati. His name is Daksha, and his responsibility is Prajapati. He is the son of Bhagavan Brahma, And his responsibility is to create, to be the pati of praja, to create, to lead. He is dakshata, and he's good at this. Dakshata means someone who's efficient, someone who's effective. In Sanskrit, a word that describes this is pravritti, one who's always thinking about what to do next. Now tell me, what part of you is always thinking about what to do next or what you have to do all day, all week, all month? The intellect. Daksha is an icon of being an intellectual, being logical, and on and on and on. What else lives in the intellect? The ego. The sense of doership and deservership is a very intellectual orientation. And so Daksha Prajapati is arrogant. An arrogant personality expects, demands that all should respect her, respect him. See, there's a difference between demanding respect and commanding respect. Demanding respect is coming top down. Commanding respect is coming from bottom up. One is unnatural, one is natural. He is demanding respect. And one who demands respect tends to think of themselves only. So they judge others only. They live in a shallow way. If you're one who is obsessed with yourself, you tend to compare yourself with all others, and no one is as great as you, physically, mentally, and so on. Daksha had organized a yajna, a large ritual, and everyone came, the devas, the rishis. Bhagwan Shiva was there too. And Daksha was that person to come fashionably late, right? That's the terminology. So everyone is seated, and Daksha walks in, and everybody gets up other than two. What are the two personalities that don't get up? Bhagwan Brahma, because that's his father, right? And Bhagwan Shiva. Why did Bhagwan Shiva not get up? Because Bhagwan Shiva didn't even know that Daksha came into the assembly. His eyes were closed. He was reveling in joy. When Daksha saw this, he understands that his father doesn't have to get up. But when he saw that Bhagwan Shiva didn't get up, he lost it. He started criticizing Bhagwan Shiva in front of all. That you can't afford anything, so you decorate yourself with ashes. Nobody likes you, so you hang out with these ganas. I gave my daughter to you. You're supposed to be my disciple. Just ripping on Bhagwan Shiva and cursing him, saying that you'll never have your own home, and on and on and on. And Bhagwan Shiva, the whole time, what is he doing? He's just listening. And finally, when Daksha just let it all out, he leaves, doesn't even complete that yajna. And everyone's kind of looking at Bhagwan Shiva like, what's going to happen right now? You know, you've been in those scenes where people are just going at it. What's this person going to do? And Bhagwan Shiva said, Daksha is a child. Daksha is my child. Just ignore what he said. And that's so deep. Our son Vyasa, when he comes back from preschool, he doesn't know what he wants and doesn't want. Like if he sees me coming to pick him up, he'll run towards me and then he'll say, go appa. He doesn't know what come and goes means. Like he's just so confused because he's so hungry, right? Small stomach, everything is exhausted. And so I just ignore it. When he says, go appa, he's going to live by himself now? You're going to find your own ride home? He doesn't know. And in Bhagwan Shiva's case is Advaita. Who is separate here? If I scratch my cheek by accident, there's no separation there. So he says, just ignore. But some of the rishis, when they were hearing this dialogue, Daksha ripping on Bhagwan Shiva, they started to believe Daksha. One of the believers was Rishi Brigu. And Rishi Brigu starts to feel, yeah, Bhagwan Shiva's useless. He doesn't do anything. So he starts throwing out curses also, saying, all of you who follow Bhagwan Shiva, you're never going to be able to sit still. You just have to wander around and you're always going to look ugly. So this curse was being thrown out. And then the curse I just talked to you about, then Nandi Bhagwan, he reacted saying, oh yeah, if this is what we're going to be like, this is what Daksha is going to be like. He's acting like a goat. He's going to look like a goat. So all of this explosion happens and everyone goes their own way. Now stuck in all of this is Devi Sati. She obviously loves her husband Bhagwan Shiva, but she keeps also remembering, because of impressions, that she's the daughter of Daksha. So she's torn that my husband is Nivritti. He's an inward-looking person. My father's Pravritti. He's an extrovert. So she's confused. Okay. Now we'll fast forward some scenes. One day, Devi Sati, her and Bhagwan Shiva are outside because that's where they live. And she sees this huge congregation of beings that is going in the direction of her parents' home. And one of her girlfriends, who happens to be passing by, she asks her, where are you going? And she says, don't you know that your parents have organized this huge yajna? You should come. And Devi Sati, she realizes she's not invited, but she wants to go. So she tells Bhagwan Shiva, we should go. We should go to this party. And Bhagwan Shiva says, we weren't invited. And she says, but this is my home. I don't need an invitation to go to my home. And Bhagwan Shiva again says, they're formal people, and if they wanted you to be there, they would have formally invited you. And she gets angry. She gives Bhagwan Shiva such karai. It's all described. Karai, that's the actual phrase that's used in Bhagavatam. And Bhagwan Shiva says, if you want to go, you go. I've not been invited, so I'm not going to go. Feel free. So she goes. She's angry, so she goes. Bhagwan Shiva just winks at Nandi, though. Just gives him one of those nods. So Nandi and some of the Ganas follow. And when Devi Sati comes into the Yajnashala, she sees that all of creation essentially is there. And the most important beings, like Bhagwan Brahma, the Sanata Kumaras, etc., they're all there. There's no seat for Bhagwan Shiva. And when she observes this, she is deeply disappointed in her father. She's deeply disappointed that she's associated with her father. And she tells it like it is. She says, you, referring to her father, and all of you, you're all engaged in dharma, but why are you engaged in dharma? You're engaged in all of this ritualism, but why are you engaged in all of this when you are not remembering Bhagwan Shiva, who is God, who is Satchit Ananda? So Daksha is engaged in dharma, but dharma that's separate from moksha. And in her deep disappointment, I can't be known as your daughter anymore. And many think that she goes into that Havan Kunda. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, what is shared is that her bodies were already made up of fire, correct? And earth and water. But her mind is so pure, she's so strong that she's able to allow that fire to be an independent element. See, fire in me is mixed up with my blood and my skin, but she can separate all of that, and she allowed that fire to consume her body. A lot of the X-Men characters, they're just copying different powers that our Devis and Devas have. So she chooses to let that body go. And Bhagwan Nandi sees this. And if Daksha Prajapati was mad earlier, he goes into a different dimension of anger. And so much happens after that, which we've studied in Ramayana. So I'm not going to narrate more. I'll just share two last thoughts with all of you. When Bhagwan Shiva was being insulted, did he care? When Devi Sati was not invited, so she was insulted, did she care? Devi Sati only cared when Bhagwan Shiva was insulted. Bhagwan Shiva only cared when Devi Sati was insulted, in the sense that she burned her body. Then he obviously was saddened too. And that shows how a bhakta should be. If I'm a bhakta and you insult me, you're a child, or we're one. But if I see another bhakta being insulted, if I see Bhagwan being insulted, I should care then. I should step out of my comfort zone and address that. And we see that happen with Bhagwan Shiva and Devi Sati. This is how Skanda 4 begins, highlighting dharma, and in this case, highlighting dharma without moksha. In our next class, we're going to explore Artha, and that will be with Dhruva. And what's amazing about him is that he wanted Artha without moksha, but once he had it, he realized how useless Artha is, and then he shifted to focusing only on moksha. In our next class, we'll meet another avatara or avataras, and that is Nara Narayana. So lots to explore next week. Oh.